What's up, everybody? Blake here, coming at you with a movie review for Saw X or Saw 10, whatever you want to call it. It's not really the 10th installment in this franchise as far as the story goes, but it's the 10th, you know what I'm trying to say. But anyways, this movie takes place in between Saw 1 and Saw 2. And if you're wondering if this is a movie that you could just jump into and watch and not be lost, as far as I can tell, unless some things just went over my head, I feel like you can watch this movie on its own and not have have any of the other movies compromise for you. You know, not even the first one. You know, this movie takes place, I think I already said this, but it takes place between, Saw 1 and Saw 2. So, this is going way back. Now, let me say here off the top, before I get into the review, I am not a big Saw fan. I am not. I am, very much a casual when it comes to this franchise. I mean, there's some movies that I like. There's more that I don't. So, going into this movie, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. But the main reason I even went to see it is because my girlfriend wanted to see it. And, yeah, so we went. I'm glad we went because this might honestly be one of my favorite movies of the year. It is without question the best Saw movie that I have seen. And let me just go ahead and say this, that the people comparing this movie to Terrifier 2, please stop. Please stop. Like, the whole barf bags thing, come on. Like, if you can't handle, the kills in this movie, then you just don't need to watch horror movies, I don't think. You can just stick to, like, Hocus Pocus or something. Night Before Christmas. Maybe is more your jam. But, yeah, this movie in no way holds a candle in terms of violence to Terrifier or Terrifier 2. Those movies are just mean as fuck, alright? This one isn't nearly as mean and not nearly as violent, in my opinion. It's just one of the greatest exaggerations I've ever seen from a publication or whatever it was that made that comparison. It's laughable to me. Very, very laughable. But as far as Saw X goes, again, this is a movie that I absolutely loved. I had a great time with it. I would definitely recommend it to Saw fans. And like I said, if you're not a Saw fan, if you're someone who never watched any of these movies, I think you could start with this movie and it not compromise the viewing experience of the first two movies. So, that's just my opinion. Maybe somebody else will feel different about that, but that's how I feel about it. So, I gotta say, getting into the positives, I thought the traps were great. They used some of the best traps in this entire franchise in this movie. And there is definitely a lot of carnage throughout. Make no mistake about it. There is a lot of carnage. There is some gnarly shit that happens in this movie. I mean, if you get squeamish, like if you have a weak stomach, this movie might not be for you. So just keep that in mind before you go out and see this movie, because it's not for the faint of heart, for sure. But all of that was great, and that's what I went to this movie for. I was just hoping to have a good time with it. I didn't expect the story to be good. And this movie has one of the best plots. It has the best plot of the entire franchise. To set it up for you the best I can without getting into spoilers, John Kramer, AKA Jigsaw, goes to Mexico to have a procedure done to remove the cancer from his body, because, you know, I would say the first hour of this movie, it's a John Kramer movie. It's about him, you know, finding out that his cancer was untreatable, and, you know, him deciding that he needs to go to Mexico and get this procedure done that's not FDA approved, mind you. It's an illegal procedure. And, you know, things don't go as planned. That's all I'm going to say, because if I say anything else, you know, it could probably be a spoiler. So I'm not going to spoil you. But I think the trailers, if you watch the trailer, I think it pretty much gives away, you know, what doesn't go as planned, and why, and why John does the things he does in this movie. As far and as far as negatives go, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm struggling to think of anything negative about this movie. I think something that could be considered negative to some people is that this movie does take a long time to get going, because the first half of it is just about John Kramer and him trying to get the cancer removed and all of that. You know, you don't really get any carnage candy until later on in the movie, except for there is something that happens. But alright, so this might be a slight spoiler, but no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Alright. So it's like there's a kill that happens very early on in the movie, and it turns out to be a dream sequence. One of the best deaths in the entire movie. And it turns out to be a damn dream sequence. Absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. But I'll let it go. It's whatever. Because the scene was still cool. It was still great. But other than that, like, I don't know what would be considered a negative to any of you. I mean, maybe the end, what happens at the end with one of the characters, but I don't really want to get into that, because I'm getting into spoiler territory if I start talking about that too much. But I'll say this: I wasn't too happy with the resolution for one of these characters. I felt like I got cheated a little bit as someone who went along for the ride with this movie. But at the same time, it's like I don't really want to hold it against this movie, because this is a great movie. It really is. It really is. It's a great movie. Yeah, I can't think of anything negative to say. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. I might end up giving this movie a 5 out of 5. Probably not. Now, I mean, I'll think about it some more, and you know, I'll put a rating at the end of this video. But I also want to make it clear: stick around for the mid-credit scene. There is a mid-credit scene, because of course there is. You know, what movie doesn't have a mid-credit scene now? Thanks, Marvel, for starting this trend. But yeah, make sure you stick around for that. It's definitely worth sticking around for. You'll only find yourself waiting around for maybe a couple minutes after the movie ends, and it's definitely worth sticking around for sure. Sorry, my voice is, you know, going out a little bit. I've been struggling with a cold. I can't remember if I mentioned that at the top of this video or not. But yeah, I've been dealing with a cold, and it's just not going away. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much all I got, I think. Go check this movie out. It's definitely worth seeing, and I couldn't recommend it more, especially if you're a Saw fan. But even if you're not, even if you're just someone who enjoys a good horror movie, but you're worried about, going to see this movie because it's the 10th installment, just keep in mind that the only movie that you really need to be even somewhat familiar with in this movie is the first Saw. And even that one, I don't think you need to be familiar with it, to be honest with you. But I guess you kind of do. I don't know. I would say at least watch the first one before you watch this. But if you don't feel like it, then, whatever. But yeah, guys, that's all I got. I'm going to give the movie a friggin' 4.75 out of 5. I can't give it a 5 out of 5. I was close, man. I was thinking about it. But I'm going to give it a 4.75 out of 5. I highly recommend it. Go to the theater and see it. See it with a crowd of people. That is the best way to see this movie. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you would be so kind, please do hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and comment below what you think about this movie. Do you want to go see it? What are your expectations for it? Let me know. And until next time, guys, I'm Blake. Y'all have a good one.